After months of hoarding and planning, we have decided our restart account's first legendary commander investment. It's going to be a Liu March. And that's why yesterday I started to plan the most optimal infantry equipment. And the plan didn't only include raw numbers and stats. I took everything into account, such as the ease of acquiring blueprints, iconic level bonuses, etc. And in the end, I believe I found the most optimal infantry equipment in 2024. And it's definitely not what you think. Now, why did I even start to think about the most optimal equipment for infantry in the first place, since the choice is pretty clear for months, if not years? 2 KVK pieces, 2 regular, 2 set pieces, and that's normally it, right? Well, that's because recently I keep seeing a very unusual archer set and seems like people are extremely satisfied with it. If you don't know what that set is, it's KVK weapon, KVK helm, 3 leadership pieces, legs, boots, gloves, and finally, the Milky Way chest. This archer equipment configuration gives you the maximum tankiness with still decent amount of attack. So this got me thinking, what if we somehow try to fit in some health stat into our infantry gear, because the usual set, or literally no infantry legendary equipment, has HP. But now there is another question. Why am I even trying to fit in some health stats in the first place? Well, you probably heard it many times. Health is the best stat in Rise of Kingdoms. While that's a cliche, it is still true. Because health is not only the lowest troop base stat, but it's also the rarest stat in the game. Attack is pretty much everywhere, especially if you're in Season of Conquest due to Crystal Tech. There are a lot of equipment pieces that include defense and attack stat, and there is, for example, a 10% defense boost item, but nothing for health. However, being the most rare does not mean most important by itself. To understand exactly why I'm trying to fit in a bunch of health, we need to take a look at a Rise of Kingdoms video from 3 years ago.
I have here an Excel spreadsheet that I made to calculate the damage inflicted to the enemy. Normally the data we need are our attack, the enemy's defense and the enemy's health, and as everything between me and Madame Bia was equal, I can calculate everything basing on my stats. Now let's go over to the damage resulting formula, which is very easy to understand. I'm gonna show it on the screen. You can go ahead and check the link in the video description and you can read an article about this formula. Well, as you can see, the product between the number of troops and our attack is gonna be mitigated, dividing it by the enemy's defense and then dividing the result again by the enemy's health. That actually means that if you stack up too much on one of the two, you're gonna have diminishing returns. Let's for example have the sum of our defense and health resulting in 100 points. If those points are unbalanced between defense and health, we are not going to have the same result as when they are balanced. Let's say that the product of our troops number and our attack is 1 million. We divide this 1 million by 80 and then by 20, obtaining 625. Let's now divide the same number, 1 million, by some balanced stats, 50 and 50. We are gonna obtain in this way 400. So we are gonna deal much less damage if the enemies balance their health and defense stats.
In this video, Vic Gaming basically finds out that the closer the health and defense stats to each other will pretty much always yield better results. And that's basically why I try to find a way to include some health on my infantry set. The most optimal way to do it was replacing set boots and Eternal Light with leadership legs and leadership boots. Both items give extra health and we also get a set bonus due to having 2 pieces. But then the problem was losing the bonus of 2 pieces infantry set because we got rid of the boots. To solve that issue, I decided to sacrifice some attack stat and replace the KVK weapon with the set one. Now we had 2 leadership and 2 set pieces, thus we were getting 2 different set bonuses. But I still needed to make sure that it's the better set because first we lost 5% attack from the weapon, and second, 2 items we got rid of was giving us 19.5% defense, but leadership pieces, even though they give HP, it was only 14%. So the question is 14% HP better than 19.5% defense plus 5% attack? Of course, crafting all the possible gear and trying both configurations will cost us insane number of materials, so I decided to test it for $1. ROK Battle Simulator. It's not an advertisement, it's not an affiliate link, I think it's just a super useful tool for Rise of Kingdoms players. I'll have a link in the description if you're interested. First, I set up the equipment for both marches and selected Wallace Primary, Liu Secondary. I ran 10 tests and leadership equipment won the majority of the times. But now, we had another problem. Both commander skills and their talents do have things that triggers with a certain percent of chance. Normally, to minimize the RNG, you need to repeat the test as many times as possible. Think about it like this. If you roll a dice, the chances are equal for an odd or an even number. But if you roll it, let's say 12 times, you see the result is not 50%. So can you say that when you roll a dice, there is a 60% chance for an odd number? You cannot, because the math says otherwise. To solve the issue, you need to increase the number of tests, because if we roll the dice again, but this time we do it for 100,000 times, you see the result is almost exactly 50%. But since we cannot do this test for 100,000 times, I decided to get rid of both commanders and instead selected another infantry commander with 0 skills that triggers with a certain percentage to minimize the RNG. Good old Sun Tzu. And for the same reason, I left the talent trees blank as well. Now let's do the same test, not once, not twice, but 50 times. (50-0). But it doesn't end there. Next, we need to see what if you start to fully optimize your equipment and awaken them. Because there is a difference between the iconic levels of leadership boots and infantry set boots. The set one gives you 2% defense in total when you get it to awaken level 5, but leadership one gives you 2% attack. So our final question is the infantry equipment that includes 2 leadership pieces still better with iconic tier 5 on both boots? Now it's time to repeat the test again 50 times. The previous one was 50-0, and this one, as you can see, is about to become 27-0, and I don't think we need to continue the testing. So clearly, Legendary Infantry set with the addition of 2 leadership pieces looks very promising to say the least. But there are 2 more benefits of it that are not related to numbers or performance, but overall gameplay and logic. Imagine that you have 3 marches from each troop type. For cavalry and archers, you 100% want the KVK weapon and KVK helm. This means if you go for KVK items for infantry as well, every single legendary blueprint chest that you get from PvE events such as Golden Kingdom, Ceroli, etc. for the weapon and helm slots will be completely useless unless you invest on an engineering march as well. But if we use this configuration, we can at least get some value out of the weapon chests. The second benefit is that when you have multiple marches, you always want their equipment power close to each other, so no march is an obvious weak link. This means when I say, let's say, invest on an archer march in near future, instead of gearing up with only epics at first, I can simply craft a Karak's Humility and a Frost Threads and move my leadership legs and boots to my archer march so that the quality-wise, the equipment on my marches will be more equal to my infantry until I can collect more blueprints and materials to optimize the gear of both marches. I wanted to make this video to show you the stat-wise and the performance-wise the best possible infantry equipment in 2024. But movement speed on the open field is extremely crucial, especially when you find yourself in a bad position. You want to be able to retreat as fast as possible. If you're a mid-spender, high-spender Kraken, this shouldn't be a problem. You should definitely go for the set that I showed you. But if you're a low spender or free to play, and if you want to minimize your hospital bills, I think March Speed is going to be our best friend. Go with this configuration if you want more mobility, but if you want the absolute best performance, you should definitely consider the leadership version.